Hello everyone. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure and check the description below for time codes to shift between the video. These deep dives tend to be about 2 hours, so you're going to want to, you may want to take a look at what we talk about there. Man, my graphics driver is not super happy with me. We're going to take a few minutes to get going here while I turn everything off and arrange my windows. Nice. Say hi in the chats. Mr. Certainly says hi. Got some exciting stuff. Hopefully I won't show my phone password. I've spent the last week trying to remember a new one. Hi Beata. Hi Bruce. Hi Dave. Oh yeah, we're a little early, aren't we? Spooks all curled up. Oop, that's the overhead. Had some warm weather, but today's cooler, and the window's open still, so he's all tucked in. Bruce says, I never remember passwords. If I lose LastPass, I'm dead. Yeah. Hey, Kinger North. Hi, Olympia. Hi, Unexpected Maker. Hi, Flying Dutchman. Oh, I should say now, as a reminder, next 2 weeks, there will be no deep dive because I am not working. I am going to visit family. Yeah, it looks like it'll be rainy this weekend. I have to clean out this closet, so it might be good. Might be good to do that. Spook's all asleep. He got some pets earlier. Ooh. Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, I can.
I don't think you can actually watch my video. It hasn't worked before. I should figure that out. Can folks hear JP?
Hello, hello. Talking, maybe, but I'm going to check my settings because who knows what settings I
Out.
have for voice and video. Okay, yeah, looks like reasonable.
Oh, am I in
There.
the wrong channel? I wasn't in the live broadcast chat. I gotta say hi to them. Oh dear. I popped your video out and it's not working anymore.
Let's see.
Is that my problem or your problem?
Doo.
I can hear you.
Okay, that's a start.
This is what I'm seeing.
Let's see little boxes.
Hi Minnesota Mentat. Hi Ritas. Hi Keithy E. Hi Gary. Hi Mark.
Hello.
I popped you out and I can turn my camera off. Oh no. Well, it doesn't work if I pop you out, but it does work
Cool.
if
Maybe.
you're not popped out.
I don't need to pop out.
Yeah, it should be okay. Reload. Oh, that didn't work. Well, I guess you could just be this tiny person in
Yeah, I'm
the
happy
side
with that.
here. Or you know what, I could just make it bigger. Here's what I'll do. I'll just move you here and do the same thing. Well, there, that's better.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't done housekeeping yet, so I should do that first. And Discord folks, I won't be able to see your chat, unfortunately.
Got it. No problem.
Um,
I like talking more than typing.
yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I have to watch JP here instead of. Although I guess I could pop you down in the bottom right hand corner. Too many windows, man. I have to figure out how to set this up. I can make this bigger.
Too many windows, man. Sounds like a documentary about live streaming.
I know, right? I've returned. Hot doctor's here. Okay. I do try to take time codes as well. I'm excited to chat with you, JP, though, so I'll try not to take too much of your time either, though.
Hey, no problem. You do housekeeping, and then I want to do can I do a snack recommendations segment?
Sure. This is a very chill stream, as you know.
Excellent.
We take lots of time to hang out. We got some exciting stuff, though. Some exciting stuff to show. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm down in the corner today, but my name is Scott, and I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. Adafruit is an open source hardware and software company based out of New York City. I live in Seattle and work in Seattle, so I work remotely for them. CircuitPython is a really easy to use programming language called Python on microcontrollers, which are these little tiny computers that are just in about everything. They're really inexpensive and they're really fun to get going. They can make the world do things, which is really exciting. So if you want to support me and John Park, who's in the Discord here with me as well, we both work for Adafruit. You can go to adafruit.com and purchase hardware from them, and then they pay us to make all this great content and software. So please support them. If you want to chat with me and John Park and a whole bunch of other folks, you can join us on the Adafruit Discord server by going to the URL adafru.it/discord. We're happy to see folks there. Deep dives happen every week, except for the next 2 weeks. I'm going on vacation, so this is the last one for a little while. It's normally Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, but occasionally shifted to Thursdays if I take Friday off. It typically goes for 2 hours or more. Questions are welcome. We're going to talk with JP first, but then I'll answer questions after that, or if he wants to stick around, we can answer questions there as well. But yeah, no deep dive for the next 2 weeks. I'll say it again. Last piece of housekeeping is Spook, who's the cat where I was showing earlier. He is epileptic, which means from time to time he does have a seizure. If he does, I'm just gonna have to make sure that he's okay. He's always been okay, but I just want to make sure he doesn't get hung up or anything. So just a heads up, if I'm on stream but not doing anything, that would be why. And that's housekeeping. So I put in the notes doc maybe special guest, JP, because I don't necessarily like to compel my guests to join. So I kind of keep it secret, which I guess is not necessarily good for you, because maybe people who would come and see it won't actually see it.
No worries. It's fun and casual.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just, as some people know, I just finished streaming about 15 minutes ago. Mostly a stream about some 3D modeling design I did for a couple of different macro keypad types of projects and Gigantor key project.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can talk about some of that stuff if you're interested. But before I do that, I'm hungry, so I have a snack recommendation and a beverage recommendation. So my snack recommendation is Trader Joe's synergistically seasoned popcorn. And it is tangy, salty, smoky, and spicy. And it tastes kind of like chili powdery, barbecuey, tangy, citrusy, like limey, kind of something like that. I don't know what they actually claim to put in here, but I really like it. And no one else in our house does, so I get it all to myself. Yeah, it's got,
Olympia's asking, is it vegan?
let's see. I don't see any claims about. No, other than kosher, I don't see any claim. Oh, gluten-free and kosher, so which is important. My wife has celiac, so
Mm.
gluten-free is pretty typical for our snacks. Here's
Makes
what's
sense
in it.
why you're doing popcorn then,
Yes, yeah, we do a lot of
rather than
popcorn.
a like flour chip sort of thing.
Yep, yep, not pretzels, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So popcorn, sunflower oil, sugar, white vinegar powder, sea salt, yeast extract, cayenne pepper, garlic powder, citric acid, rosemary extract, paprika extract, rice flour, natural smoke flavor, and turmeric. May contain trace almond milk, almond, coconut, macadamia nut, pecan. So it's delicious, and that's my snack recommendation.
So, do you ever watch Bon Appetit videos? Because you totally just gave me that moment.
Oh, that's funny. I haven't.
Like, so one of their hosts, Claire Saffitz, did this show where she tried to reproduce like snacks you buy at the grocery store, but using like
Mhm.
gourmet ingredients.
Oh
Gourmet
yeah.
Makes, I think, is the name of it. And
Okay.
she would always have this, like, she would read the ingredients list, and the editor of the video would put all of the words that she was saying as she was saying it until the screen was full. You just reading off the ingredients list, like,
Yeah.
totally gave me that memo.
That's funny.
Um,
Yeah, for
di-
some reason, growing up, my dad was really big on reading ingredients, even if they were like absurd, like
oh, yeah.
polysorbate 80 and like crappy ice cream. So he just like loved reading ingredient lists. So I have some um, from that innate
That's a,
desire.
it's a good thing to do, I think. Like, you can tell, like, the things that have a lot of like food science processes versus the
Yeah.
things that are just like if you ever go, like, I remember reading like the list for puff pastry at the in the frozen aisle, right? It's like the most expensive puff pastry, you read the ingredients list and it's like flour and butter.
Uh,
Versus like
yeah.
the more shelf stable ones will have a whole long list of things instead.
Yeah. And boy, butter's expensive. So if you look, you ever make real pastry, like, oh my God, it's expensive. Like 8 sticks of butter later.
Right, right. So Dave was asking what time difference between you and I, and we're both in the same time zone.
That's right. Yeah. We're
Um,
on the west coast of the United States, so
yep,
no different.
yep,
Um,
exactly.
and then I have a beer recommendation. I don't know if that's age appropriate for everyone on our show, but this is
Ooh,
Los Angeles Ale Works. They call it Salt Bay, but they
huh,
spell Bay like your girlfriend or boyfriend.
right.
Uh, and it's a Pilsner, and I'm usually, I love IPAs. I'm in California where IPAs really tend to be the most popular ones made and consumed here. But boy, it's hot now. So this is a nice one. It's Pilsner. And I don't usually like beers that like actually add other things as flavors to
Yep,
them.
yep.
I don't hate it, but it can be heavy-handed. This
Like
one
a
is not.
shandy.
Yeah, it's and ones where they like say, okay, this is going to be like peanut butter stout, and they've literally put peanut butter in it
I
at the
like
factory.
those.
Uh,
I like peanut butter stouts.
they can be good, or they can be like real artificially and terrible. So I'm cautious with them. But this one has a sea salt, lime, and then Hallertauer and Saaz hops. But the sea
Mm,
salt and lime is really subtly done. It's not doesn't taste like just like citric acid powder,
right,
gross.
right.
Um,
Nice.
so this one is, and it's fairly low ABV because again with these California IPAs, it's like high 9% alcohol and it's a pint
Oh
of it. It's like,
yeah.
geez, this one's more a little under 6, so at least there's
Nice.
some some sessionability to it. So
Awesome. Well, you're taking this like Friday afternoon thing like full bore
mm,
here. I feel like I should have grabbed a drink, but I do. I'll
yeah,
choose it with my water glass here.
okay.
And I do like people probably may not notice, but I do like these pint glasses are all like different beers.
Oh, right on.
So that I don't think what is this one? Derailer Ale. There is
Ooh,
it's from Moab. My dad must have
okay.
gotten this for me.
That's like a
Um,
bicyclist beer company probably or something.
yep, yeah, in Moab there. So
Mine
yeah,
are some Father's Day gift pint glasses from my daughter a few years ago that just have a big park emblem kind of thing on them. I think she
awesome.
got it on Etsy.
Is it your family crest?
It is not, but it's just fancy looking.
Awesome. Well, when I offered to have you on, I was assuming that would be an easier way so you wouldn't have to do a show beforehand.
Oh,
And then it turned out that you did both, and
yeah,
so I was like, that's why I was like, no, you don't have to come on the show unless you have stuff left in the tank.
for sure,
Um,
for sure.
but
Yeah.
it does remind me just chatting with you, like when I actually visited. If folks haven't seen it, I actually did visit John at his house, at his shop here, and had a good time. And so
Awesome.
I like to keep it casual. And um, one thing I thought would be interesting to talk about, since you and I have just chatted, is the parsec stuff.
Yeah.
The CircuitPython parsecs, like you kind of do these style of videos, right, that are really short and just like super concise. Colin's doing these right now too.
Yeah.
But I wondered, like, as you're getting, like, you've been doing CircuitPython for a long time, like, by virtue of, like, I think you joined Adafruit, like, just a few months before I did, right?
Mhm.
And so you've seen CircuitPython evolve, and I think the parsecs are, like, just getting you more and more into it.
Yeah.
Um, how, how's it going?
It's
Right.
going well. So the like my evolution in coding on microcontrollers is like a lot of people started on Arduino. Um, and excuse me, I'm not a coder by training, so I was coming into Arduino mostly from scripting inside of computer animation software. So
Mm-hmm.
for most of my professional career, used a piece of software called Maya that has a very C-like scripting language inside it. And nowadays, it's actually been overtaken by Python internally to the program. They both kind of exist, but um, so Arduino was pretty good fit for me coming from Mel, which was the name of this Maya embedded language, this
Right.
C-like scripting.
Right.
Um, and so then I spent a number of years doing projects in Arduino. Um, and then I want to say right around the time that CircuitPython was coming online and being developed, there was also MakeCode, the graphical
Mm-hmm.
um, programming language from Microsoft. I feel like those might have been roughly around the same time. And so I started to dive into both of them.
Right.
Uh, and I started doing these Make Code Minute segments of my show, little videos that were about 2.5 minutes long,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and really trying to do elemental things like
Right.
how do you press a button and know that it got pressed, kind of stuff, uh, all the way up through some more advanced. Like I want to do a whole project that maybe lights up things and is a game score counter or interfaces with my computer over USB so that I can make a Guitar Hero controller for a computer instead of a Nintendo. So I did kind of
Right.
a range of those types of projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I was using CircuitPython in projects, and probably for my own projects that I made learn guides out of, I went from in the early days with Adafruit, it was all Arduino. Then I started to do half and half Arduino and CircuitPython, and then as CircuitPython got more libraries for uh, parts I wanted to use and got more features, I've sort of drifted more towards or been attracted more towards using Python for my projects. And I'll still use Arduino mostly in cases where it's not even a speed thing. It's anything I've done pretty much. I've had the speed I needed in CircuitPython, but it's again, if there's just like a feature, a library or something that didn't exist for a certain thing, and it was like, oh yeah, kind of the only way to do that is Arduino. But I love using I love it being iterative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the iterative nature of CircuitPython just because I can try, and it's like as fast as hitting save and I see if the
Right.
thing works.
Right. Right.
Um, and so that's been a help. And then I've become kind of, I think, as most people, the one you're using more becomes like you don't have to look it up as much, like the syntax and things. So
Right. I was
it's
just
like
gonna
a
ask you
natural.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed semicolons at first, and um, but I think I've come to really like the white space formatting,
Mm-hmm.
which I wasn't always that good at doing that in C. I mean, you can kind of do that right, but you don't have to. You can
You're
like as long
right.
as it's curly brackets, and so
Yep.
um, there's something nice and visually organized about that's almost forced on you.
Hmm.
And I'm a very visual person, so I took to make code, and a lot of
Right.
for people who saw the show I did before, I was showing some of the way I tend to do computer graphics and CAD and things like that is
Hmm.
with uh, DAG nodes, like nodes with attributes that are connected. And so that type of visual arrangement of here's some data and it goes into this, which performs a function, and then the data goes to that next thing.
Uh-huh.
So that type of visual arrangement of things is helpful for me, which is one of the things I've always liked about Make Code.
Right.
And so I think there's an element of that in Circuit Python of keeping things uh, organized for me to see where sections are of things just on screen.
Right.
Um, and now I've transitioned to doing this show instead of Make Code Minute. I'm now doing these, and I did like 100 and I don't know 35 episodes of that or something like that. There's a lot of them. So I covered what I wanted to cover, and
Right.
now I'm having a lot of fun tackling a similar type of thing. I didn't go back and say, okay, I'm going to do a one-to-one of them, but I'm just
Sure. Sure.
starting out with what are really elemental things, and I'm only 7 or 8 episodes into the
Hmm.
CircuitPython Parsec, and so it's literally been like digital in, digital out, analog in, analog out, PWM. That's kind of like analog.
Right.
Today I did bouncer. So those are part of how I arrived at doing these is that there are, I don't know, like 5 things I do in almost every project.
Hmm.
Like as long as I can like read a button and send a signal to a thing and maybe iterate and count something, like that covers like most of the physical things with electronics in them that I end up building.
Right.
Um, USB, real popular, MIDI, real popular. So NeoPixel. So these are these fundamentals that I use a lot, and I have these 2 great resources for reading and copying and pasting when I do that. One is the CircuitPython Essentials Learn Guide.
Hmm.
And so if you just go to learn.adafruit.com and type ESS, it's the first guide that pops up. And if you go to our search thing, just ESS, it jumps you straight to that, or you can
Nice.
bookmark it. I have bookmark. Um, and that has a terrific bunch of little code snippets for
Hmm.
things that you commonly do. And then the other is my friend Todd, Todd Kurt. He's Toddbot in our forums. He recently started a GitHub page that's just called Circuit Python Tips and Tricks or something like that.
Mm.
And it's a similar type of thing, except it's not even on like a learn guide with images. It's just bunches of little code snippets that you can copy and paste out, and it complements the essentials guide because it's maybe some more obscure thing like how do I find out how much space is left on this, you know, on this
Hmm.
flash drive, or I'm trying to think of other examples. The debouncer is on there, so I use that a lot, and I said, okay, I'm going to do the CircuitPython parsec by showing people the kind of really common things that you end up doing when you're building a
Right.
project.
Do you think?
Um,
Do you think we're missing anything?
no, not between those two, and maybe at some point we can look at folding some of that stuff in.
Right. I
Uh,
haven't actually seen Todd's page. I'll have to take a look at it.
yeah, I'll put up a link here in a second, or if anyone in the chat can put it out if Todd's here or not. He was actually, I think he was having to go run an errand, he said.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll tell you the thing that occurred to me that's highly unnecessary, but would be kind of cool, is a um, kind of I don't want to use the word wizard, but like a configurator where you click like a checkbox next to like 5 code blocks and say that's what my project's going to need, and it just builds a
Hmm.
CircuitPython .py file that's just okay. We're going to import these 8 libraries. You're going to be setting up some neopixels. You're going to be setting up some buttons. You're going to be writing out to an analog thing. You're going to need to iterate through something and count. Like it's kind of the um, only thing I'm responsible for now, other than naming. It's like I've got the logic of these code snippets in our those 2 places. So I
Right.
copy and paste them. It would be kind of cute to have a wizard type of thing where you just say, you know, here's my menu of stuff that's gonna, without needing like a Blockly coding
Well,
image
I
thing,
think
it's nothing that fancy.
I've so we're working like what I'm working on is this BLE workflow stuff, right? And I wanted to do it for years. I had to get super in the weeds of BLE to do it, and it's kind of like I'm hesitating a bit, but I'm very excited. I actually just got like listing the directory working,
Hmm.
and I think I might have just fixed reading a file from the app as well. So like we're on the brink of having this world where you have an app on your phone,
Hmm.
and it can talk to CircuitPython. And one thing I thought about for the longer future, and whenever I talk to people about like, yeah, I want to be able to program from your phone, they're like, oh, that sounds terrible because I don't have a keyboard. And
Right.
I'm like, well, there's a world where you don't need a keyboard. There's a world where you can have an app that allows you to program that, uh, in my mind, is this intermediary between
Hmm.
block-based programming and text-based programming, and I think of it kind of as code-based programming.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think an element that block-based stuff does really well is the ability to browse for what you need,
Hmm.
right? Like, and they do it through like categorizing blocks based on color. So that's like your
Yeah.
category, and so that's going to be your like CircuitPython Essentials stuff, and
Yeah.
then it's going to bootstrap you. But like maybe there's this like more like code forward version
Yeah.
of that where you
You
still
know,
get the ability to browse, but you don't necessarily have blocks. I kind of think
yeah.
of it like it looks like text, but it
Yeah.
interacts like blocks.
Yeah. You know
Um,
what? In fact, that exists in Make Code in their sort of Python or Java tab, depending on the Make Code you're in. If you go over to what you'd kind of think is, oh, that's probably just the text editor, it still has all the categories,
hmm,
and you can still pick like NeoPixel strip, and it pops a line of code in for you.
hmm,
So you may then need like enumerated lists to change some numbers or whatever if you don't really want to type. But
right.
they actually are they're even I think that's even closer to what you're describing
Hmm.
uh, without the need for the graphical stuff, which I think would be maybe too much for a phone to noodle around with. But yeah, they do have some stuff that tries to bring in chunks of code that are the equivalent of the graphical block, basically.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I wonder, like, it still has a cursor for where it goes, right? Or do you drag a block into a particular spot? Because, like,
No, they only go as far as it's basically popping text into the editor for you when you choose their category
okay.
item, throws it over there for you, I think, and that's it. And then you're typing.
Right, because I'm kind of convinced that, like, the real failure of text editing on a phone is the cursor, right? Like,
Yeah.
cursor management on a phone is really what is terrible, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, it is
Um,
terrible.
so I like this idea of, like, you have holes, and this is kind of what blocks do, right? Is like you have spots where you can attach something else. And in my mind, in text or in code, it's like if you have a function that takes two parameters, like you don't have a cursor, but you just have holes there that you have to fill in. And
Yeah.
if we know that like the second parameter is a number, we just click the hole and you get a number keyboard or something, right? Like
Hmm.
there's some really cool things that we could potentially do with that. So
Neat.
yeah, that's the long term.
Mhm. But yeah, in general, the where we are right now with CircuitPython is just terrific. Like I can get stuff done. The um, place we're at from like my point of view is that I finally have little like you guys are putting buttons on things like the fact that I now have one of my camera controller keypads here that doesn't show up as a CircuitPy drive because I'm using the CircuitPython 7
Yeah.
boot.py thing to describe the thing as only a HID USB device. That's the only thing
Right.
it shows unless I hold the first key while I'm starting up. I think is what I set it to. I did this a couple
Nice.
weeks ago just to try it. That's like very refinements on some things like that. I'm sure there are still, major things that people want that don't exist, but for the place I'm at, it's like it just kind of amazingly refined.
Good.
How long we've been working on it, or you've been working on it.
I mean, it's not just me either, right? Like, I was the first person. That's good to hear. To some degree, like this BLE stuff is something I wanted to do for so long. It's kind of like I'm 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 trying to think further out, right? Like, like once we do that, what is the next thing, and what are the next things after that?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always tried to keep our focus on the like first 5 minutes, and so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of work to do on the BLE side for that. But I wonder how we can continue to push the boundary of what happens in that first 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you know, as somebody who's doesn't have a software background like I do, like the question is like, or the challenge is like making sure you don't get bumped off doing
Yeah.
it in that first 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think um, the first 5 minutes is there's an aspect of it that's difficult to control without really controlling the IDE,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I think about these browser-based things like MakeCode.
Mm-hmm.
If there were a browser-based editor for CircuitPython devices that always started with working example code and not just print hello world at the top, but like here's you know, it's as if Arduino's always opened blink.ino when you start them up, which they don't do. But like
Right.
when you're if, if you're doing stuff every day, it doesn't matter. But if you're like casually doing this stuff and you're coming back after 3 weeks having not touched any of it, you're like, God, what do I even how do I even start? Like I really
Right.
like the idea of um, library management in a browser, example code and auto completion type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
serial and easy to connect to serial.
Right.
But something where someone can just say from because currently I either go to the Essentials Learn Guide, I open up my old code from a different project that I remember is similar, or I
Mm-hmm.
go to Todd's tricks page. So I'm always going somewhere. I'm
Right.
not staying in one place. I use
Right.
Atom.
Yep.
If there were an Atom plugin that was like, "Hi, I am your CircuitPython best friend," and it was just like, "What would you like to do?" It doesn't need to be clippy and have an animated character or anything like
Right.
that, but don't annoy me. But at the same time, a this notion of what you're talking about with the BLE thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a phone. Like if I'm on my computer with giant monitors, I still don't really love going and putting my attention over here to copy and paste a thing, hopefully properly.
Right.
Uh, but instead, just from within one environment, one IDE of some kind or web-based thing of some kind, to be able to say, search NeoPixel, and it says, I think you probably want to paste in some like format a NeoPixel code. And, I ran into this one 2 days ago when I grabbed this little 8 millimeter through hole NeoPixel, uh, and it didn't work. And I was like, I kind of, for whatever reason, remember that this is not a GRB
Oh
ordered
yeah. Yep.
NeoPixel. And I looked in our product page, and yeah, it says, okay, by the way, watch out because this is RGB ordered. Well, searching the internet or the Adafruit site for what is the order, what is the flag you put in when you build the NeoPixel strip to say the
Right.
order.
Right.
I think order equals, but I'm not sure. Same with like auto write. I couldn't remember the word auto write, so I was like automatically, auto something, and it took me like three
Yeah.
minutes away from what
Right.
I'm doing. So, and the read the docs are great. I end up there too, but again, it's like a separate place. So, I think that's one.
Do you have the Atom extension installed? Because
I don't.
I think there is one, and I don't think it does what you want, but it um Foamy guy was just looking at it. So
Ah,
what this is autocomplete to some
okay.
degree, right?
Yeah.
Is one way to solve this problem. And we did Dylan actually, she helped us and switched all of our documentation that generates the API docs
Cool.
to a format called circuit or Python stubs, which is like it's Python code, but there's no implementation. And all the editors kind of standardized on using that as their way of understanding what the APIs for things are, so that when you're typing it in and it knows what you have, it can give you autocomplete for stuff like
Oh,
that.
great. I'll check that out. Yeah.
It's not like one of those things, and talking about this is like we should prioritize it, but it's like one of those things that like is still in the works and it still doesn't work very well, but like
Mhm.
that's definitely part of it. And
Yeah.
I also want to use that for like if we do an editor for a mobile device, like
Right.
it will be powered by that same information.
That's smart though, because it looks like if that's done that way, it's not just like putting all your eggs into creating one IDE, but instead
Yeah.
it's creating a way for the docs to always generate these stubs that then someone
Yep.
in their plugin or app can kind of subscribe to grabbing that info, which is what I
Yeah,
want.
and so like the Atom IDE could use it, Mu could use
Mhm.
it, VS Code could use all of that data to power
Great.
however they do that autocomplete. We
Yeah.
could use it on the phone. I've been thinking a lot about like if you have a like PyLeap app and you pull it up and what you get is just basically like all the examples, right? So like that starting problem is like let me show you all the learn guides and you just select one. It does the project bundlefly bundler stuff and dumps it all on your phone, and now your phone's doing that project immediately, right? Like
Mhm.
that's really what I've been thinking a lot about too.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess there is a lot of work to do.
Again, I mean, these are nice problems to have because they're about refining
Yeah.
the interactions with a thing that I like that works well, and
Right.
I can make my projects. So.
Right. And I do want to the other thing that's on my list is I do want to support the Raspberry Pi natively because I would like it so that like and I think you'll like this too as a graphics person. Like it would be cool to be able to do all of the display stuff that you can do in CircuitPython but on your TV.
Oh yeah.
And so by being on a Pi, you would just have HDMI that
Mhm.
would give you like you could have two 4K HDMI display IO displays or something
Mhm.
crazy like that.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
Um,
I picked up one of these and had a lot of fun with it. It's the Dazzler from
oh yeah.
Glean, and it's a HDMI out. It's like a graphic card for a Circuit Python device, basically,
Right.
because this
Right.
is like a feather going through a big chunkin graphics processor
hmm
and doing like I don't know 120 frame a second like demo scene graphics. It's really cool
Awesome.
and a lot of fun because uh, the interface into it is just these sort of simple Circuit Python.
Right.
I just scratched the surface on like modifying two demos, so I can't say I have experience in it, but it's.
But you had a good experience.
I did, yeah, I did. Uh, it's a lot of fun
Awesome.
to have that kind of horsepower at your disposal, but taking all the hard stuff taken care of. So it's just like you're talking to a game engine through the game developers kind of API, not the coders view of the world. So
Right. Right.
appreciate that.
Cool. Well, anything else you'd like to talk about, or otherwise, I feel like I should let you go.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the one other thing that I run into still, and the funny thing is that I've been running into this problem since I started with microcontrollers and Arduino. And again, my friend Todd Kurt, who's local, we used to in the before times get together and chat about this.
Who I also met when I was visiting.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. You guys were both on the show. So Todd laughs at me because the answer to this problem I always have is like I need to do two things at once. Like
Yes.
I want like a pulsing LED going, but I want to also read a button, and I don't want to and it confuses me. And he's always like, blink without delay. The blink without delay example of Arduino is like always the answer, and it's never the one I want.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but I love that in MakeCode, it feels like it's threaded. Like I can just say, this is happening, and this is a second forever loop, and they're just concurrent. And he's like,
Right.
they're lying to you under the hood. It's just using like elapsed millis or something, like that. And I said, that's okay. I don't mind being lied to. But the thing that I always bump into is like, I kind of need two things going at once, especially if I start thinking about things like MIDI sequencer. Let's say I want a 120 BPM clock that's going and it's lighting up, some keycaps, but it's also still allowing me to change stuff. Like this is this area where I never can really wrap my head around how I'm supposed to do this in Arduino, in CircuitPython, pretty much in
Right.
anything. I was like, I just want it to know that I'm trying to do two things. So
Right.
I
I
don't
think
know, just like a guide you could point me to that'll set me straight on it, but it's it's like the one thing I always run into.
well, I think we hear this a lot, right? Like this is not a new thing that we hear from people. And the challenge I have is that except for the RP2040, like fundamentally you can't do two things at once on a
Mm-hmm.
CPU, right? Like and that's part of the reason that I push back so hard when people want this is like, look, the CPU is a linear thing and it
Mm-hmm.
does to some degree one thing at a time. And so like I'm kind of because of that I'm kind of okay forcing you to think about how I'm going to do this blink, but actually this I have some time while the LED's on in the middle of the blink to do this other thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
to some degree I want people to have to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other degree is, and I wonder if you ran into this with MakeCode, it's because, they are doing all of that looping and threading stuff behind the scenes, but they do allow you to share state across those boundaries. And I wonder, did you run into problems and weirdness once you started orchestrating between two things going on at the same time?
Generally not, but I was not pushing things too hard. It was simple things like even having two concurrent melodies playing.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to have them have their own kind of like time and looping, and they didn't even have to be of the same length, and they just kind of both ran. But
Mm-hmm.
and I could still have a like change, mute one of those when I pressed a button. So I was able to do some stuff like that in the game. In MakeCode Arcade is probably where I used it the most, and there it just seemed to work. I was able to say, okay, I've got an enemy that's moving around on a path.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm moving my guy with my controller, and it didn't feel like I was managing that stuff.
Right.
So it
Right.
handled the kinds of stuff I was doing well enough to again, I was okay being lied to, but it just
Right.
felt like I was able to tell it to do the thing I needed to do.
No, I mean, I think MakeCode has been like very successful in doing that. And one of the challenges, as we were talking about this, like merging between like this middle ground between block-based coding and text-based coding, it's like the one of the things that MakeCode has that text-based coding doesn't really have is this ability of like separate blocks, right? Like
Yep.
they break linearity that text-based coding generally has, right? Like your code starts at the top and goes down unless you
Yeah.
tell it to go elsewhere, right?
Right.
Whereas
Right.
like in make code, you just have this block and that block and they have like just do this or on this thing and like it makes it clear that they're disparate.
Hmm.
One of the challenges in Python is usually it's like I have this function, and then I'm gonna call this function at the end that calls both and runs both, right? Like
Hmm.
it gets like it's just weirder to me. I think that the setup in Python is like not as simple, and it makes it a
Hmm.
bit harder to talk about that.
I see what you're
Um,
saying. Yeah, the paradigm is not conducive to the notion of this thing and that thing because it's
right. And I've thought about like you know you could have the model of just like code 1.py and code 2.py, and maybe they run completely
Mhm.
independently, or at least they pretend to. Like, how do you? What if you do want them to talk to each other?
Right. I see what you're saying.
Um, which is kind of
Yes,
interesting.
some people have mentioned in the chat, and you said the RP2040 with these little PO state machines. I have not touched that yet. I think maybe I did one example based on some code that maybe Jeff Epler put up, but
Hmm.
uh, again, it's not something I have any uh, comfort level with
Right.
or great understanding of. But the notion of these, if they're really, if I'm even thinking about it properly, of these uh, separate PIOs doing something without being
Yep.
interrupted by other stuff is
Yeah.
potentially the answer for the kind of things I'm looking for.
Well, I think like Sander is pointing out that there's actually two CPUs in the
Right,
RP2040, right? Like there's
right.
two Cortex M0s that you could theoretically run Python on, and MicroPython does this. They allow you to run Python code on two cores actually simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
Where like make code is just faking it for you.
Right.
But in the case of actually having two cores, generally you can have them running concurrently.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, I think the challenge would be, can that be made um, accessible to a maker like me? Because right now it feels like you and Jepler and Sean Heimel, you're good to go with that stuff. But I'm like, I'm not writing PIOs. I'm not writing like assembly language on a separate virtual part of the chip or whatever.
right, but at the same time, what you're talking about, like you don't need true concurrency, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the only time you need true concurrency is if you're actually like constrained on how much processing you can do. Like for the like, I just want to blink every 1 second, but I also want to check a button at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually need that. You just need the thing that'll fake it for you. Um, but what you're talking about with PIO is an important idea in the sense that actually there's a lot of parts of the chip that work independently from the CPU, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing a SPI transfer, right? Like depending on the chip, you might actually be able to say, "Hey, here's 4 bytes. Just make those like send those out right away." Right? And then now that SPI thing is doing stuff concurrently when your CPU is doing stuff, right? And then DMA is this direct memory access thing that the CPU can set up and say, hey, when the SPI needs another byte, just read it from memory for me so that I don't have to worry about it. So there is a lot of concurrency that happens in
Mm-hmm.
addition to like the traditional concurrency you would get with a CPU. And that's kind of like if you've ever seen it, like we start to see this in CircuitPython where you can play a wave file, right, or
Mm-hmm.
something. You can play something, and it will play, but then continue to run your code, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there
Yeah.
are a few cases that we already have where we're actually doing stuff either in between your Python code running or actually relying on the hardware to do it concurrently with what we're
Awesome.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a hard problem,
Yeah.
and I think fundamentally the challenge that computer scientists have had is like, how do you express it
Yep.
easily and correctly? And the
Yep.
correctly part is the part that nobody that I know of has done a really good job with.
Uh-huh.
Because concurrency is really hard, and like internal to CircuitPython, we're constantly finding issues. Like I've been doing NRF stuff, and I'm seeing like, oh, this like output came back as USB input like, for some reason. Like I'm getting into the REPL because some text that definitely did not come from my computer, like the code thought it came from my computer. Like concurrency is really hard, and I think that we often hear about. It's good to hear this from you because you're not one of those people that's like, I've been doing threading for the last 2 decades and I want my interrupts. Like you're saying, like I really want a way to express that I'm doing these two things at once. Um,
Right. Yeah. I'm careful to try to not be the guy who walks into the mechanic and says, I think my distributor caps are blown. I just want to say what I want to do, not what I think the solution
yeah,
is. So
yeah,
I'm not going to run around and say, we need interrupts. We don't need interrupts. I'm going to say,
right,
this is the nature of the types of things I'm trying to do. And usually there's an answer. Like it's
right.
pretty rare that I've run into something where some other person hasn't been able to help me figure out, oh yeah, use elapsed millis. Like that's been
Hmm.
like one of those things that I go to and I'm like,
Right,
okay, you're right. Or the debouncer, and it's
yeah,
like, okay, you're right. That doesn't actually block anything. So
right. And in
um,
in in CircuitPython, the equivalent is like time.monotonic, right? Like you want to
that's what yeah,
know
that's the
how
one I'm
much.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking about. I assume the Arduino equivalent. I don't know what the
Yeah,
Arduino
those
equivalent
are the
is.
two similar concepts to me is
Yeah,
time monotonic and
right.
elapsed milli. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is the strength of Adafruit and in general is that they have folks like you and all of the other creative engineers who are coming from the I want to do this thing because I want to make this thing, right?
Right.
And having that guidance and that informs what Lamore makes, right? Like
Hmm.
having that grounding and like this is what I'm trying to do because I want to do something, not because it's cool.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a
Um,
feature. It's a thing.
yeah, right. So I think
Right.
that's really important, and I think Adafruit's been really successful because they have that, and CircuitPython's benefited from that as well.
Yeah.
So whenever for folks watching, if I ever push back on you and say like, I know you want interrupts, but tell me what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
This is
What?
exactly why.
Right.
Because we may have something that allows us to do it concurrently for you already.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, the thought I keep having is I can't wait till the next time I get to teach something like a microcontrollers type of class in person with people using Circuit Python to be like, look at this. This is no longer, scary. It can
Right.
be a creative person who wants to just make their cosplay prop do a thing. And the
Yep.
fact that it's now a text file that you can drag onto a drive or share with someone, that aspect of it
Yeah.
is easy to forget how big of a change that is compared to, okay, put an IDE on, compile a thing successfully, and get it onto the chip and compile form.
Right.
Um, Again, it has its place and it's powerful and great. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Arduino, but from that aspect of trying to teach a class in 2 hours of a physical thing getting built and putting code onto it. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to do that again in person. Python on it because
Right.
it's a really different animal.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John. I'm gonna let you
Thanks for
go
having
because
me.
I
Yeah.
can talk and talk and talk, obviously.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
thanks to everyone in the chat for putting up with our yammering too. And I'll get out of here. I'll finish my popcorn and my drink, and I'll watch the show and let you guys dig into some BLE.
Awesome. Yeah, I am gonna try to show a demo of what I was like just trying to
Mm.
fix. So it was very exciting. I literally like got my phone connected and I listed all the files on the device and I was like, because last time it crashed. So it's very exciting. I think it's gonna be really cool. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, John.
Well, thanks for having me. So much fun.
Yep. See you later. All right. Sorry, Discord folks. Let me catch up. I always struggle to. Let me rearrange my windows here. I can only make my Discord window so small. That feels larger than it used to be. Yeah. I don't get it. I thought it's fine. I'll just scoot it over. Oh, you know what? I made it bigger. That's why. That'll do. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, folks. I'm gonna get caught up on the chat here quickly because I like to interact with the chat. So let me scroll back. Actually, let me take a time code here. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Dave said, "Is JP really in his workshop, or is he using chroma key and actually is the local bar?" You know, he's just he has beer in his workshop. Christian said, "Are we talking like having a Pi host a server with that editor and library manager? Could be a good way to do the USB serial interface if you're using a mobile device." Or is this assuming CircuitPython and BLE? Yeah, when I was talking from a mobile device, I mean straight to the CircuitPython device. Ryan likes using event loops for robot stuff. And King North says, these are always tough concepts to teach my students and the timing delay problems. Yeah, and I think it is really an interesting question of like how you express what you want to do. Like it makes sense to people that I want to do two things at once. Am I in the right? Oh, links to the beer. Awesome. Let's see. What is the approximate longitude difference between you two? That I don't know. I'm in Seattle and JP's in LA. John is in the weekend groove. Yes, he is. Yeah, I moved things around here. People make their own beer? Nice. At least you can see where I am in the chat. Back into CircuitPython after my excursion with C++. With CircuitPython, I encounter much less problems. Also, the freedom we have in the Python language, I'm able to create a project in much less time to C++. Yeah, I think that's the pitch. That's the pitch for me is like, you can get going really quickly with it. Mototimo says, myself and them both went to the barber this week. Hi, Di. Yes, I did. I got a haircut, and it was a little late because it was like in the 80s, or it was pretty hot, but now it's less hot. Okay. I missed a lot. Yeah, I need to look at the new Swift playgrounds on iPads. They are definitely experimenting in that vein. AT Makers Bill says, just a thought, what I'd really like to do is be able to configure a device by a phone. So edit a config file, set of values, let us change delays, configure what keystrokes MIDI notes are sent. Yeah, so the file transfer stuff that I'm working on is like agnostic to what file you're sending and receiving. So if you had like a config file on the device and then had an app or just a text editor on the device, you'd be able to do that. I really am pushing to have like a generic file app and a specific CircuitPython editing the Python stuff. The boot.py USB turning stuff off is 7 only. Yeah. Yep. You have about 5 minutes to set the tone expectations and keep their attention. Uh-huh. Yeah, keep the E's on board. Coming back, the final version. Yeah, you have to save it. I end up going through all my devices being like, is this the one I had it on? Pico can do VGA. I know, but I want HDMI. I don't want it overclocked and all that stuff. Is there a CircuitPython fake threads for non-critical, non-blocking functions? There is the async keywords. You can kind of manage it yourself, but not a great... Yeah, it's very early days still. An extension like Microlab within CircuitPython is a game changer, by the way. Is other similar functionality planned? Especially now that CircuitPython is closer to the current version of MicroPython. Microlab was just like Zoltan coming to us and being like, hey, you should add this. And we're like, oh, that would be awesome. That's really all that stuff has been, Jeff's done the integration part, but Zoltan's been just really a great collaborator. And so it really depends on, the folks that come into our community and what they want to add. We're happy to work with folks to get more stuff in. Doctor says, if you had code 1 and code 2, could there be a dedicated memory space for them both? Yeah, I think really what you want is, like, I think I would just do queues, like message queues back and forth. Yeah, that's what Neradoc came up to, too. Yeah, it's not an easy... Concurrency is hard. How are we going to do the next 2 weeks? The most common class of tasks I hear are along the lines of when a button press run code function. Every 50 milliseconds run code function. Stuff that Arduino world would be often done with interrupts, but I don't necessarily need real interrupts in CircuitPython. I'd love to make a native code library for CircuitPython that's just run code every n milliseconds. Since the MicroPython merge, can I do that now with MPY cross? So with the latest versions of the MicroPython core, you can do native MPY files. I wouldn't recommend it. And I'm not sure whether you're able to trigger Python code from there. The native MPY stuff worries me a lot because it won't work across all the boards, and that's kind of a big selling point. Yeah, people agree. Oh, congrats, Mark. Mark says, so while I was watching the show, I just got noticed. My show and tell badge is now officially my first certified open source hardware project. That's awesome. Congrats. Okay. I'm caught up in chat. Sander pointed out Wolfram Alpha allows you to do the latitude of some place minus the latitude of another place as well. Beata says, we'll be taking another crack at being an I2C sensor in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Or next 2 or 3 projects. This week has LEDs and light sensors. Yeah, I'm surprised that like for a while like people didn't want that, and like more people seem to want it now. Okay, I want to see if this code that I was trying to fix before the stream works. So we're gonna go to the overhead, and this is my trackball and my dirty desk. Like this weekend is all about me cleaning the office, so hopefully I'll make some progress. Okay, so let's see. Let me unlock my phone off the screen this time. So here's my phone. Oh, there's my control for my light. Maybe it will just work. Oh. Don't want to see I was texting my neighbor. So here's the latest, like hot. Oh, let me switch it. Whew. Here's the hot out of the compiler version of Glider, and I'll lock it as well. It's not finding anything. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually. Sorry, I want to make sure that I have the. So I'm forgetting the device. So I'm back in the AutoConnect, but I forgot it. Now what I'm going to do here with this test version is I'm going to click it so it does public scanning. So I'm going to click once, and then when it's blue, I'm going to click it again. And now it should be publicly scanning. And we can see it's 1 and 1. And it's nearby. And it's pairing. So here, we haven't done anything to the CircuitPython device yet, but if we hit the folder, you can see it listed everything. Awesome. And now if we want to read a file, we can click this to change the file name. And now this is the moment of truth if I fixed it. If we hit read file, and it doesn't work. So this is what I was trying to fix. But it doesn't look like it's working. So let's go to desktop with hover, desktop with overhead. So what I just want to check. I may not spend a lot of time on this today, but I was just trying to fix it. So let me do, it's probably that one. So let's just go through that again because I want to see what the CircuitPython side sees. No, this desk has like kitty litter dust on it too. It's kind of gross too. I know, I need a phone that's just for doing stuff on the stream. I had this Android sitting here, but we're doing iOS first. But yeah, that if I can't see the jitter, it doesn't count. I can see it, and that's the problem. So what is happening with CircuitPython development when you are on vacation? With Dan, Jeff, continue to do releases? Yeah, the show goes on without me. I I do have this iPad I could use. I have an iPad here. You don't want to know where the cats have been in the litter box. That's why there's litter dust here. The litter box is like in the next room over. It's a reality. If no one has been inside your home in 16 months, it's clean, right? No, that's where the dust just settles. But yeah, everything continues with CircuitPython. I'm not the only person that works on it. Okay, so we have it pulled up. Let me just do the same thing. Because I haven't set it up. So I'm forgetting the device. Pulling it up. And note it's not finding it because if you look in the REPL or in the serial output, it says private advertising. That's what I actually want to work on today. Oh, there we go. Pair. And we'll do the list again. And let's see what read file does. That didn't look too bad. That looks pretty close, actually. Let's take a look at this. Simon says, so Scott, how are your cats? Spook doing well on his meds? He's doing really good. Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't. I always say the disclaimer about him having a seizure, but he hasn't in months. So yeah, he's doing good. Okay, let's take a look at what this said. This looks pretty good. So here's the list. This is all my debug prints. Write to says, okay, we want to read code.py. Total length, 1473. Chunk size, header. Here's the first bits. You can see the code there. And it should be 493, so data out 493. I'm just taking a look at this in case, if I can figure it out, maybe the app will actually finish. I think the app is right. Antonio is just looking at it. So read from packet 12, continue command, continue read. The continue read is what I think on the CircuitPython side was wrong. So continue read. Right. Oh, I'm just not printing anything out about what I'm sending. Let's add that. I would love to get reading working because I think writing might work. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between trying to get it reading, or like trying to get the protocol working, and then also trying to get all the like connection stuff going. So the other thing I was working on was trying to get the demo test connection code working, or the Python side working. But okay, let's validate this stuff. So I'm just gonna copy this print and put it here. This is all I'm going to do. I'm going to copy and paste a bunch of stuff. Okay, so that's quantity read, and we're printing it out. And I want to print out the header too, because I was getting all of that wrong. Header. Header is written here. Header out. We won't potentially spend all the time. Are we diving into BT workflow? Yes, we are. Header out and it is response bytes. So that'll tell us that it's correct. We should get a third. Oh, there is another continue read here. But then it was disconnected. I wonder if that was just... I don't know why it was disconnected. Okay, let's build. Which of these tabs was I building in this one? I would like to do an Android version. And by do it, I mean, I'd like to see Antonio make one. But there's like a lot of stuff we're learning right now. Copy there. Anthony says, I don't think people might understand how hard this is. Congrats, and I hope you get this working soon. Yeah, me too. I was hoping to actually get it working before I go on vacation next week. So I've got, like, Wednesday's my last day. So it'd be cool if it's not, I feel like it's pretty close. Has anybody anybody watching done BLE and done in particular, like, the advertising process for reconnecting? Because that was the other stuff that I was trying to do of, like, I got the private advertising running, but on the other device, if I'm using a second CircuitPython device to connect to the first, I can't, when I do a scan, I don't see the private advertisements. And I think the reason is because I haven't set, like, the key identity stuff internally. But I think I need to do that. Okay, so I built, and did I do this? John says, woohoo, that was a cool way to kick off the stream today. Where are you going on vacation? So my partner, her family is from, they live in Michigan. So on next Friday, I'm flying to Michigan, and I'm there for 5 days hanging out with them. And then I come back before she does, and then I'm going to go see my family. Who lives like 2 hours outside of Seattle here. And my parents are watching the cats. So I'll actually see them on Thursday when I drop the cats off as well. Okay. All right. Let's just try it one more time, because I would love to see this working. Oh. Aha. This is what happens when the connection stuff is just like makes the process so much longer. Talking about iteration times. Come on, get close enough. That like -40 broadcast is pretty. There we go. There we go. There. Listing seems to working pretty well. Wow, see, it's like stuck in this loop still. See how it's like flashing a bunch? Something's not right. It might be me. It's like sending the same pieces over and over and over again. Where is it? But now we have all the information. Continue read header out. This header looks kind of long. Oh, but it's right, I think. Header out. This is the reply. This is... Here, I make this bigger. So we're doing... What is the protocol? What should it be sending? Not the UP in Michigan, going to Kalamazoo. Ooh, spoilers. I was going to show that off too. BLE file transfer. So here's where the protocol is listed. And the response is 11. Status 1 is for OK. Chunk offset. Total length. Chunk length. Chunk offset, total length, chunk. So this header is chunk offset, chunk length. Like, it seems weird that these are... No, that's okay. Total length. But then what we should get is like this. Why is this so long? Buffer. That's like the full buffer. Where's this print? It's here. Current offset. Oh, you know what? I wonder if read pacing. No, offset plus chunk size. Greater than or equal to total length. Then we reset and close the file. I am not in New York City. I'm in Seattle. I work remotely for Adafruit. Set size %D. I will get you working. Header out. Offset. Total. I am a printf debugger, let me tell you. Thanks for the question, though. Line 461, it's a pointer. It shouldn't be. That's what F size is taking care of. It is rereading it. So there is this weird world where... Microdev says, have you got the BLE code in upstream branch to test out? Yeah, if you look in my... It's under BLE Workflow 2 is the branch name. It might not be quite up to date with this, but I generally push every day to back up. Offset isn't getting reset on every call, is it? If it is, it might be hard to greater than the total length. This might be a wrong question. So offset should change as, like, it's the client's job to add it and then send back the new offset, I think. Let's take a look. Let's get some more debug prints in here. By the way, I love Sublime. I do too. Let me tell you, it is so quick. I appreciate how quick it is. That buffer is hard to read. Yeah, it's because I'm printing both the ASCII and the hex, which is kind of annoying. If you want, I can commit this stuff and push it if you want to look at it separately. Right, like, I'm going to rebase that branch and stuff. Don't consider me don't consider me committed to any of the code that's there, but all right, let's try it again. When I'm not on stream, I get this iteration down to about 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. I know because it says like 2 minutes ago. I'm just looking at Ollie. USB to isolated stuff. Sounds like something Blinka would be good for. Okay. I was gonna say it didn't come back. I was like, oh, it's connecting. But the keys aren't right. Pair list code.py TO. Scroll down. Oh no. Lost my connection. And it doesn't. Hey Bruce. Forget. Now it's yeah, see, like, ugh, we gotta get this reconnect stuff going. It's public advertising again. You can do it. Pair. I still like that. I can see all the files. Yeah, it's still doing the same thing, huh? It totally could be me. It's funny, actually moving my phone away is the reason it disconnects, I think. Or maybe because I locked it. All right, let's find. Oh, you know what I think it is? We need to reset. We need to reset the current offset regardless. Like, we're not waiting to get to the end of the file. We're waiting to get to the end of the chunk. And then we should get a new command. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So see here, this is checking if it's total length. Whereas what we should be doing is we need to have something more like this. So if current size is less than, or no, it's a read. I think we should just always set it back. Oh, which we do. We say current offset is 0. There's not an early exit, except in this error condition. So why is it? It's just sending the same thing over and over again. Like, it's the app's job. I think it's confuzzled. Yeah. I mean, it could be the iOS code that's confused. Or I'm not reading the right place. Like, this looks weird to me. Doesn't that look weird to you? The fact that, like, this buffer is so long. Like, this buffer should never be that long. Like, that's what seems weird to me. Bluetooth background. Here's the buffer print. Read from packet. Size buffer. Current offset. Why is it so long? We're in read pacing. Oh, where was I looking? I was looking in read. Read pacing doesn't set current offset back to 0. Read does, but read pacing does not. Save. I think that's it. This code is terrible, by the way. It's my code, I can say that. It's like super early, it needs to be organized. I think that's the problem though. It's getting chunk 493. What isn't being satisfied? It's rereading. Can't give you the next chunk. I think the problem is that it's like not consuming the current command. I think that's what it was. Okay. Copy here. Huge success. Are you assuming it works? I mean, that would make sense why it would be a problem. Okay, let me get the phone ready. Forget device. Scanning. Go back to TO. Connecting. Disconnected. Public advertising. Hmm? There we go. Oh, and it disconnected. This is all super alpha. Don't judge if it... Oh, did you see, there's an icon now. There's a glider icon. It's still publicly advertising. Come on. Pair. List. Code. Read. Heyo! Look at that. We have the file. Should we try to fix it? Delete. Write file. Oh, it gave an error, but you know why? Did you see that it said error? Yay! So the error is, see here in the text output, it says USB is using the file system. So that error was totally okay. Love the Factory says, how difficult is it to get CircuitPython working on a STM32 that isn't supported yet? Is there a guide? There isn't really. The best person to talk to is Hierophect, who's done a lot of the STM work. Make sure that it has at least 32K RAM and 256K flash, though. Otherwise, it should work. Yeah, feel the love. Okay, so I want to try another test. And that test is I have this USB cable from the shop, and it has this data and charge mode. So I'm going to put it in charger mode. And we're going to go crazy. We're going to lose our thing. So let me go back to, let me do full overhead here. Full overhead. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over again, and we're going to see how far we can get. So I'm going to forget. So this means that we won't be on USB anymore. So I'm going to do boop and okay, so it didn't give me the blue option. Oh, and it's connecting. Oh, pair. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go here. And and it doesn't work. Did we disconnect? Maybe? That minimum pair. Read. There we go. Code.py. Read file. Delete that. And write file. Heyo! That was all correct. But now the problem is it's private. It's private broadcasting, and this is what doesn't work yet. So what we'll have to do is I'm going to click this, and it should publicly broadcast, and it's going to complain. So I'm going to go here and forget. It should private, or it should give me the blue. Okay, so let's do the file selection again. Code.py. And let's just, I guess we're going to read it again because we wrote it. Oh no. What do we think the reason that was? It's still running because we're still blinking. Let's just reset it and see what happens. I don't know why we're not getting the blue blinks. I gotta figure that out so that we can forget. It's like sticky. Come on. Pair. I still am excited that that works. Read file. No, it crashed again. I wonder. Let's turn on USB and see if the write actually worked. Like, cause that's what we're trying to confirm. Thanks, Unexpected Maker. You're probably gone by now, but I just saw it. Okay, let's switch the switch. Let's see if that write worked. So we should get a code.py or a circuitpy, which we do, which is good. And it's 1.4K still. And look, import NeoPixel's gone. So the question then is, why isn't the read working? I actually didn't expect that we'd do this all day, but I'm gonna put emoji in Python code. Does it make sense to make a glider port for the Linux CLI? Says the person without a decent phone. I think what you could try actually, Fede too, what you could try is take the CircuitPython BLE file transfer library and see if it just works on, because Blinka has BLE support. It's possible you could write like a thin, it's possible you could write a thin Python CLI on top of that library to do it from the CLI. Microdev asks, have you thought of a Wi-Fi only workflow like the BLE? I know people want it. I find that talking to things over Wi-Fi is much more of a pain to get them to talk to each other. So I haven't thought too much about it yet. I wouldn't rule it out though. Like, I understand people want it. Hopefully somebody else will add it instead of me having to do it. Okay. So let's see if the read works now. Or we could figure out why we don't get the... Oh, I think I know why we're not getting the blue. Let's see here. Ooh. That time it worked. Why is that, do you think? No, I don't think it's that my blue LED is dead. I think what it is let's just fix it because I'm thinking about it. In here we have the blue blink. I mean, that's a good question, Doctor, because the red LED was my problem before. But I think it would work if I unplugged it and plugged it back in. I think the reason is that I'm ending up in this mode. And what I'm not doing is, before I do that, what I should be setting, I should be clearing this set saved word so that it doesn't stick. The saved word is a piece of memory that doesn't get reset with, I'm just going to null it out. Ryan says, I just wrote a simple web IDE that seems to work pretty well. You could do web Bluetooth, maybe. Web Bluetooth would be really cool. Like, what if you just did circuitpython.org/IDE or something like that? I was also thinking about circuitpython.org/serial for your serial connection as well. Okay, let's build. We're going to copy over this new version to get our blue blink on. I like ESP now for some things. Web REPL with the file manager. Yeah, I talked to Damien a bit about... Brent says talking to things over Wi-Fi is a pain. Yeah, that's been my experience. Okay, back. Well, this is exciting. I'll have to send a link to Lamore that we got some of it working. And they can clip it out. It's weird that I should double check that the broadcast strength... Like, because I'm setting the TX power really low with the advertisement, but I should make sure that when it connects, it doesn't connect at that low strength. That's why it's so touchy. Like, I only want the advertisement to be that weak. But the TX power, once the connection is made, should be a lot. Yeah. Okay. So we're doing blue. So that's okay. I don't mind skipping it. I was thinking about this. Here, let me take a poll. So I hit it during the blue period. Should I have it be solid blue for a second to confirm that you did it correctly? I think that makes sense. Is that we should have, like, instead of blue blinking, it should be blue solid and then return. I should probably just do that right now while I'm thinking of it. Let me know in the chats if you think that's a good idea. Microdev says circuitpython.org/IDE sounds cool. It could be cross-platform. 100%. And it can source libraries straight from the server. Mm-hmm. I agree. Simon says, yeah, I would. Okay. The solid blue makes sense. Okay, let's do it. So here's an erase. An erase is actually potentially a file system action. So let's set it blue before we get there. If BLE mode. Okay, let's init the status LED earlier. Let's de-init it in here before we reset. Let's set it. Oh, where'd it go? This is probably bad. I'm copying a lot of this code. Let's not do that. If BLE mode. Only want to set this. If we're not gonna do it. You need another YouTube stream for Sublime. Oh, sorry. Sorry, folks. What we talked about is doing what we talked about doing was like setting up a bot so that like people in the chat can control which video feed I'm broadcasting. Okay. BLE mode, if it's 0, set the saved word, because we might actually do this. If it's not 0, after the time, I'm gonna do a preemptive set. I guess it doesn't really matter. So we want to turn it on before we do the erase, because the erase is going to take time. I thought you were talking about the band sublime. No, sorry. Yeah, we might have fights between Cat Cam and Code Cam. That's fine. We can check in on Spook. He looks real cute. Does that look like a happy cat or what? That's a cat's life for you. Alright, we're gonna go back to code now. Okay, so if the mode is not blah blah blah, and then this can also be BLE mode not equals 0 or that should be fine. Diff gets reset. We'll get into this loop later, but the diff will have started from here. We'll hit the loop once. That's okay though. Good night, Dave. Set it. Erase. Boot and discovery. Oh, we don't want this return. Set saved word. Oh, you know what? Instead of this then... Oh, look, there's an erase here. We don't want that. Do we? No, I don't think so. Instead of doing the set saved word, we say reset state equals 0 so that we clear it. Otherwise, the value that we're keeping around is the one that will get us back here. That's right. Let's try it. And then I can take the last 15 minutes to show the broadband stuff. Or 10 minutes. Alright. Copy it over. Live crowd coding. Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's what we should do, is figure out how to have an editor where people can all see the same code. That'd be kind of neat. Kind of like a Google Doc. All right, let's try this. Oh, there's a USB bug here. You can't see it. There's a USB bug that sometimes kicks it into the REPL. I thought we fixed it, but it's still there. I'm gonna hit it. Blue blink. Solid blue. Nice. I'm gonna do it again. Looks good. Yeah, I like that. Can everyone see that okay? All right, let's do one more. For kicks. Bluetooth. Forgets. Pair. Load. Code. Read. Oh, it was just slow, but it worked. Yay. And we want to import. Oh, it capitalized it. Import NeoPixel. And then, right. And it said I couldn't do it because of USB. Awesome. Well, that is where we're at with Glider. That looks pretty clear. It's obvious that you hit the BLE workflow with press. Nice job. Awesome. Thank you. Before we move on. Hello, Jeff. Finally caught one live. Gonna have to go back and catch the first 100 minutes to figure out what's going on. I just demoed. We were working on debugging house. The CircuitPython code I wrote for reading files was completely wrong, apparently. And, well, not completely wrong. Wrong in a couple ways. And I'm just going to add all this and push it so that it's not on my hard drive. I actually, you know what I got? I talk about mail. I did get a 1 terabyte PCIe 4 NVMe drive that I'm very excited about. I've been doing all of this data science-y stuff that takes a lot of space. And I have a 512 gig thing and I've filled it up. So I was like, I'm going to buy a terabyte. And then I realized that I bought the NVMe that's in there before I had my new motherboard. And my new motherboard can do PCIe 4. So I'm going to take everything that's on my current drive and put it on this drive, and then I'll have the other one for more space as well. So one thing I did do is I actually let me finish my thought. Commit readworks blue LED solid on erase. Formatting. I'm going to redo all these commits anyway. It's primarily just, I'll push it so you all can see it too. See, I'm pushing it. Oh, I can't see it again. Desktop. Pushing it to my BLE workflow 2 branch. So one thing I did do, because I was having this problem, I was running out of space, is I switched from ext4 to BetterFS. And the reason I did is because ButterFS or BetterFS allows you to compress under the hood. So whereas I was running out of space, now I actually have 162 gigs free. Because a lot of this data science stuff that I'm doing, okay, let's switch over. Let me take it. David let me know he wasn't going to be able to do time codes. He's just been really busy. Oh. 153. 27. Fiber deserts. Can you move the deep divers role up in hierarchy? I'd like blue for a change. Sorry. I like CircuitPythonistas being higher than, and that would affect everyone. Whoa, that's a huge storage savings. Do you pay for it in access time? I'm not sure, actually. I'm sure some folks would have a better measurement for it, but like, you're paying CPU time versus PCIe time, right? And I am really lucky that like I managed to snag one of the 16 core Ryzens. So I have like the best consumer grade thing right now. So if we go here and we just like look at, so OBBM was like a name I was thinking about doing. If we just do DUSH, like it's 225 gigs just in this alone. And we can see here, like, here's a CSV file that's 2.7 gigs. And like, that is perfect for, ButterFS's on the fly compression. Because like the tools need it uncompressed. They can't like uncompress it as they need it. So it's neat to have like this here where it like thinks it's that big, but it's not actually in reality. There's another one that's 11 gigs. Yeah, so these are like Yeah, so this FBD US satellite one, it's a big long CSV that has for every census block, every broadband wireline provider, their name, like how big it is, or like, let me show you. I can show you. So I've converted this to DB. These are SQLite files. So those of you who don't know, one of my side projects is currently building a map to show where in the U.S. That internet service is really poor. So if you just go, it's going to be at fiberdeserts.net. This is an old version. This is kind of what I'm going for, but nationally. So you can hover over, you can see blocks. I'm getting rid of this thing that follows me around. But the idea is that I want to highlight areas that don't have good internet or fiber. So what we have is like the FCC, which is our like our radio and TV and telecommunications regulator. They publish data that's reported by the providers about like for every census block, which are these areas here, like how fast of the service it is, what like technology is used to provide that service. Yeah, so it's the provided reported data. So that giant CSV is like a dump of all the provider reported stuff. And it's also nice, and that's because it's like too common. Getting stuff as CSV is really common. And then there's also this GeoJSON format, which is a JSON version of like stuff. And it's really large too. Nebraska has a law they're debating to have an independent group validate these reports. Yeah, so kind of the longer term goal is to have this site be able to kind of like tell you whether like it can be a kind of a third party to. So like Washington State has a speed test that I'm going to pull data down from. So let me show you where I got. Let me start it up. So there's this really cool tool called Dataset. I was trying to publish it. I was actually trying to like replace the. I got it to a point where it's. Yeah. So there's this tool called Dataset, and what I'm doing here is I'm giving it specific high tech for kids, a static directory, a template directory, and then I'm listing SQLite stuff. Like these are the base map is like all of the labels in the water and stuff. US Census is the census blocks, tracks, and stuff. I have buildings. I have the F477 data, the mobile data. So cell phone providers claim coverage areas and different technologies, and then this high cost stuff too, which I was just experimenting with. So if I get that going, this person say. I tried zooming out so I could see more of the country and it just stopped loading. Yeah, it does that. Is the speed test logged by going to a location in the counties and having a third party run a test? Good night, Microdev. No, the Washington State broadband tests are done by individuals. And they're kind of self-reported too, which leaves an interesting question about determining like, is somebody like on terrible Wi-Fi? That's an interesting problem too. Okay, so here's the current running example. Let me just hit refresh. So I finally got this right-hand side, left-hand side. So the right-hand side, I haven't actually, does it only do Washington? Well, let me show you. So this version does the whole US, and it's kind of slow. Remember, it's like generating a lot of these tiles on the fly. So I could take requests if people want it. So right now the map isn't really showing what I want it to show. this might just die. So all of these polygons for counties, so these are counties at this level, they're rendered on the fly. So that's why it's taking so long. But it's kind of okay because in the future, it'll be behind a cache. So like one person will have to load it at this level, and then everything else, yeah, we'll take requests. I'll slowly pan around as my computer is a little unhappy. If I know my geography. Can you hear my fan kicking up? Yeah, so I want to put it behind a Fastly cache. I can't hear you over your fan over my fan. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so what I have here is these are tracks, I think. So I'm gonna have to zoom in. Where in Pennsylvania are we going? And will I know where it is? Should we just do Lebanon? Let's do Lebanon. Chug, chug, chug. So this page is loading from my local box. That's why it's doing a lot more work. And do I have my, I have developer tools. Let's take a look. I wanted to make sure my browser cache was enabled. Oh, we got more stuff coming in. I want to click. So this is a census tract. So let's see if I zoom in enough that like there's not a ton in a particular tile. Okay, so here's Lebanon High School. Here you can see there are actually buildings. And what I can do here is I can click this tract or this block. It drops a marker. It highlights the block, and it tells you all of the wireline providers. So Verizon Pennsylvania will give you 940 down, 880 up, and I know 50. This is the tech code. This is where it would say like fiber. I think what I want it to say here is like fiber and list all the people do fiber. Then Comcast is going to be cable. Sadie, it says, nice haircut. Is that my spring look? No, this is my, like, I get around to actually having my hair, getting my haircut look. I do this haircut all year long. It's just, I space out my haircuts longer than I probably should. So, yeah, that's what this is showing, is that from the Form 477 data for this block here, has all these providers. That's what they're reporting, and this is the service that they're reporting. And then this is the wireless data. So what's powering this is data set, which is really cool. So if I just do this and then do like F477, so this is a SQL interaction thing. So if we just click here, it's going to be slow because it has to count how many rows it is. But you can actually just do a like, I want to find all the rows where the state abbreviation is, what is Nebraska? NE? Apply. And then it took too long, so it stopped me. There's no index on state abbreviation right now. Whereas if I pick like one of these census block codes, I could say block code is that number, and it's nice. It should be nice and snappy. So yeah, so this is it's a really neat way of just exploring data. I also did, so I want to have like raw links that allow you to get into this, and then I just did the high cost one. So here is, this was interesting to me. I didn't realize that you could get this. So what this is there have been federal programs to pay for people to get access, and this actually lists every individual address, its latitude and longitude, the company that provided the service, which fund it was, and then it will tell you that they got what speed they got and how much money total they got to do it. So like somebody, I think there's like a date here as well. Deployment year. So somebody in 2019, we paid for them to get 10 megabits down, 1 megabit up. Which is kind of just outrageous to me. But then again, somebody was talking about like Nebraska having terrible dial-up service. Let's just see. See, it's a little quicker now that it's cached. So that should be like usually the experience. Where's Nebraska? There it is. So you're talking the western side of the state? Keith says that's a huge improvement for a lot of Nebraska. Okay, so we're in Nebraska here. Here's a Alliance. Let's click here. It's a tract. I don't have any data under tracks yet. So I gotta zoom in. Do we think Alliance is bad? Huh. I don't know why we got a 404. Let's see how Alliance does. So at least in this town, if this is correct, there's an Allo Communications which will give you fiber for 1,000 each way. See, this is kind of cool. Like I find it fun to find all of these random like ISPs that are giving people great service, ideally. Okay, that's in a town though. Let's see if we can't find like what is this here? Here's a tiny town. Yeah, that's the motivation for the bill. So this Beria town has fiber and it does 300 symmetric, which is nothing to sneeze at as well. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I'm happy with how this is working. So the next step I had for this is actually I want to get it up to the fiberdeserts.net because I think it is kind of neat to just explore. One thing I also want to do, and maybe I'll have time to do it this weekend, is I'd like to put a search box where you can at least put your like zip code, and it will warp you at least to the zip code to just like help find stuff. Doctor says, will there be anything to add service quality? Like Comcast here offers the same general speeds as Verizon here, but the actual service quality and customer service is very bad. So this is all self-reported data right now. But there is this site called Measurement Lab that does open source speed tests. I think it's just .net. So I think I want to integrate with their speed tests. And so you could say, that's why I have a drop, a pin drop. I want you to be able to say like, I'm here, run a speed test. And then what we'll do is what we would do is, like I would log your IP address when you say that. And then I can go look up by IP address later, for this open source or open thing. Like you can get all their data, and they have some troubles. Like they just use IP address to figure out where people are. Yeah. Keith says, it is correct if you're testing and not letting anyone else use the line and you're testing right next to the ISP, not in a house a few miles away. Your fight for fiber is not technology neutral, so it would be killing the non-fiber competition. Is that good for competition? Yeah, you're assuming that only one provider can provide fiber. There's actually there's a model called open access, where, and I know that there's in Washington State here. The idea being that like the utility provides the fiber, but the ISP, the internet service itself, is provided by somebody on top of that. It's kind of like we all pay for the roads, but then the like DHL and UPS and FedEx can all use those roads to service people. Oh, there's a collab version for Sublime. The reality is that, okay, yeah, David says we do that for electricity. Yeah, it's similar. Like there's a lot of parallels to, like, we should just get fiber to everyone in the same way we should get everybody electricity. Oh, I think I got Brewster. I kind of just want like to, like, these poor folks, they only have satellite. 60 is satellite. So folks here, they only have satellite internet. Oh, but look at this. So Brewster here has OKPUD, 100 to 100 fiber. I thought Grand Coulee Dam was around here somewhere. Here's Bridgeport. Bridgeport has Douglas County PUD wholesale fiber. Whoa. No, 30 is not fiber. 30 is something else. That might be incorrect. Douglas County, Ziply Fiber. That's interesting. Ziply Fiber does not provide fiber. They provide terrible service. Yeah, so I'm going to try to get this public so that people can start poking at it. One thing I would like to get is these tech codes to actually show something. Oh yeah, here's Grand Coulee. This is what I was thinking of. So this is like a big dam here in Washington State that generates a lot of our power. And there's a Grant County Public Utility District that does fiber. But it's an open access model, so there's like internet service providers on top of that. The first number here, this 50, is the technology code. So it would tell you like what type of DSL it is, what type of cable it is, or whether it's fiber. Early fiber internet services started with DSL-like speeds. Does that graphic show the number of people they serve? Because some of those look amazing, but if they serve 2 clients, it's still something of an internet desert. So this is a controversy with the Form 477 data, is that in order to report it, they only have to service a single household or a single premises in the block. So yeah, it's not as granular as it could be. And actually, this data on the left-hand side includes business customers as well. So it's not just personal folks. I do have data around, like the census data has the number of people that live in a block as well. That is something I'm used to using. Or something I'm used to, yeah. Hey, Patrick. Does the data separate residential versus business, or is it all lumped together? Oh, actually, we can just look in the inspector here. So this is the full... So what I'm doing is I'm actually just making a call to dataset with the block code. So it will... So here we go. Block code. So it says doing business as holding company name, max. So these are also advertised rates. Sorry, I think it's a lawnmower. We're almost done here. These are advertised rates, not rates that they promise to give you either. Somebody said, "Is that my computer fan?" No, it's not. Tech code, provider name. Yeah, so there's just like Booleans for business and consumer. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. The window is open because it gets hot in here. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I finally figured out how to like do a little bit of JavaScript-y stuff for being able to like click around. So I wanted to get this up on the website and get all that working. This is really nifty. Is there a way to highlight the lack of reliability between the advertised speeds and the provided speeds? Yeah, I would like to. I would like to get there. I would like to start. So when you click here, like I would like to be able to say then, and here's all the speed tests we found for this area. And Microsoft also released a data set at the county level for what they think that the average rates are. Never understood how... Well, they advertise up to that rate. That's the problem. That is a direction I'm excited to see. Yeah, so I think what I would do is... I want to have a button on here that says, like, take a speed test. Take a public speed test, I should say. Like, the data is logged and like, the location that you give here would could be associated with your IP, which you should think about before you do that. But yeah, I think once we start having enough data, we could aggregate it so that we could say like compare speeds and stuff. And we could do it even on a like provider by provider basis. So I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that as well. A lot of this has been like figuring out the infrastructure bits, and now it's kind of like, all right, let me, like, now that I have all the pieces, now I can just say, okay, I'm going to pull this data source in and I'm going to have it show on the left-hand side, right? So yeah, and I also want to bring in like the federal funding. There's actually a pretty good map that they just updated. This is the Universal Service Administration Company high cost program. It's under open data, actually. If you're curious about this stuff, they have this map. The Connect America Fund broadband map. So we were talking about Nebraska. I think I'm a state off. That's Kansas. So here is Nebraska. You'll notice I don't have roads right now in my version. So these blue areas are areas that we've paid, like the federal government has paid to connect people. And then what you can do is you can actually just click a dot and say like, this person had 10-1 in 2019, like I was saying. And these are people that like, these are companies that were paid to provide that service to folks. 25.5. So yeah, this is trying to be a bit more transparent about where our money's going. I thought they had... I thought it was multicolored. One I found when I was looking at this is this here. This company is doing fiber with that money, which is really cool. So, yeah, I already pulled this is the same data set. At least all the dots are the high cost data set that I have. All right, let's wrap up. If you're losing service every other week, you should be compensated in some way at downtime, especially if you're working. They promise a minimum of 100. They should suffer if they break the promise. 74 up is really interesting. How does Starlink fit into this map? So they would be categorized as a satellite provider. but they will only show up in the areas. I don't know. I don't necessarily think you have to have a customer. I'm trying to remember when this data was gathered, because Starlink's done a lot even in like the last 6 months to a year. But they should show up as a satellite provider. Like here's some small town. Yeah, so see they have satellite. So this is sorted by upload speed, is how I'm sorting it. And you can see these are all the people that have mobile service as well. So yeah, Starlink would show up as a form 477. And in fact, you know what I can do is if I go here and I do forms 477, and maybe if I just look in provider name and I search star. So there's no provider name here as Starlink, but I think that I'm still I think this is a little old. I'm trying to remember. Let's look at my. So this is June 2020 data. So it's like over 6 months old. SpaceX. Yeah, I could. Oop, I turned it off. Minnesota Mentat says fiber is still needed in densely populated areas. Was that a duck on the stream, or should I step outside? Hughes was in or not. Yeah. Space, blue space. No SpaceX. It's possible that they're just not linked. They're not listed yet. They did weren't. So the latest round of funding, the RDOF, Rural Development Opportunity Fund, like Starlink won some of that money, so they would be in there. I do need a better way to know the time of the stream. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I could try to get an overlay on the stream. That might be the easiest way. All right. I'll try to get this out publicly. If you do want to follow the code is, for Fiber Deserts, is up under Fiber Deserts on GitHub, under map. This does not include all the data, so you wouldn't quite be able to, if you're not able to get it going, let me know and I'll send you files or get you files or whatever. But yeah, let's take a time code and wrap up. Starlink, starry-eyed. The early reviews are that it's very unreliable, and that's hard to overcome. You need reliable internet, not just internet occasionally. You said it does not have the maps in the code. It doesn't necessarily have all the source files. I can fix if you want to add things to the doc but not necessarily have exact codes, I can always go back and watch it and update it. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining me for this deep dive. Reminder, this is the last deep dive for a few weeks. I'm taking the next 2 weeks off for a vacation. I'm going to see family, which should be really good. Yeah, just put fiber everywhere. Starlink is not going to be, never going to compete with fiber. Just spend our money on fiber and get it done once and for all. That's my opinion. That's why it's called fiber deserts. Thank you all for hanging out. I'm glad we made some progress on the BLE workflow stuff. And thanks again to John Park for hanging out with me and chit-chatting about things as well. If you want to support me, please do so by supporting Adafruit. You can go to adafruit.com, purchase stuff there. If you don't have any blue BLE devices, I suggest picking one up because we're doing some really cool stuff with that. That'd be cool. And if you want to chat with us outside of just this time window, feel free to join the Discord server by going to adafru.it/discord. And if you want to check out the fiber desert stuff, feel free to ping me on the Discord as well. And with that, I think that's all my housekeeping. Thank you all, and I'll see you in 3 weeks. Have a great day, and I'll definitely get some cat pets in here for you. Kitty cam. Hi, kitty. I have to pet you. It's tradition. He's like, Dad, I'm taking a bath. All right. Thanks, folks.